Hi everybody, and welcome to our series of pre-Gemini full moon webinars. I know we were just discussing among the staff that it was pretty short notice, so I'm glad that those of you who have been able to show up have been able to be here, and I gave you 4 links. There's going to be 3 that are 3 webinars, one tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night, for me anyway, at night. And they are going to be on the keynotes of love tonight, resurrection, and contact. And then the late one on my Friday night, which will be 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time on Friday evening. That will be the full webinar with the illustrations and the little lecture beforehand. These will be more the attempt to go into meditation quite quickly. Since you will have 4 links, and since different people come at different times, every time you want to register, you will have to press the particular link for that day. This was the link for the 21st, and then if you want to come here tomorrow, you'll have to sign on by pressing the link for the 22nd, and so forth. So here we are in a day of renunciation and attachment, as is the case for the 3 days before the actual full moon. And the keynote of our first day of preparation is confidence, which is an attitude of the etheric physical body, actually, as DK considers it, and the realization that that which we are about to do will really put us in touch with the subjective energies, and that we will be able to utilize these for the welfare of the world. And the keynote that we'll be meditating on tonight, my night, is love. This is a great sign of duality, and actually I've been working now on some programs for the chapter in Gemini. You know, I'm doing these esoteric astrology adventure programs, and I've been for hours now, you know, a number of hours working on Gemini. It's an amazing sign, and he gives us so many of the cosmic relations when discussing Gemini. It is a sign which is causing so many dualistic happenings upon our planet, and it is it induces a state of conflict between the pairs of opposites, between at first our soul and personality. Well, really at first the personality is warring within itself, and then there's a soul-personality issue, and then there's a spirit-soul issue. But Gemini will always follow that conflict by a type of resolution, a kind of fluid synthesis between the opposites, which are called the contracting poles. They are meant to be brought together. It's a sign which was so active at the time of individualization, along with its opposite, Sagittarius. Gemini, in a way, produces the angelic content of the human being, and Sagittarius the animal content. So it was the unification of the 5th kingdom of nature, you know, the 5th creative hierarchy, the kingdom of souls, and then the higher aspects of the animal kingdom. All of these struggles with duality that we have on this planet of purifying pain, or is it pure? I always get it wrong, but purifying sorrow and releasing pain, or purifying pain and releasing sorrow. One of those two. You get the idea. It's not very pleasant on our planet at some times. All of this is induced by Gemini and by its ordinary ruler Mercury, which is interestingly called the star of conflict. So we have a very difficult situation on the astral plane, to which our planetary logos is responding, because Gemini is supervising his astral integration as well. And the human beings, being part of him, are responding to that division upon the astral plane, which is eventually resolved in the cosmic ethers, you know, the Buddhic plane, Atmic plane, Monadic plane, and Logoic plane. And Gemini has a great deal of rulership over those as well. Well, you know, the World Invocation Day is coming. I think it's going to be on the 24th here. It's wherever we are, it's a time when we want to, in a regular way, repeat this great mantra of power and light, and which is our most effective tool in bringing about the reappearance of the Christ. So if it's at all possible for you, and I'll be mentioning this, try to find a way to regularly say, or at least think, the great invocation as often and as regularly as you can on World Invocation Day. You know, every hour would be good, and if it can't be that, then every 2 hours or whatever, and wherever you are, you can at least think it. And this will help bring the hierarchy closer, we are told, and this is a time when the resolution of the conflicts to which humanity is subjected is such a crucial matter. Sometimes when I study Gemini, you know, it has a lot of second ray in it. I sometimes think there's plenty of fourth ray in there too, just like for Mercury. You know how the constellations are. Some certain rays come through certain constellations, and usually he gives us that there are 1 ray, 2 rays, or 3 rays. Well, for Gemini, he only gives 1 ray, the second ray. But whenever that's the case, you have to think that there are some latent rays there that he's not really discussing. And I've wondered whether the fourth ray is not one of them, since the principle of duality is so profound. Well, look, I said I wasn't going to give a lecture, you know. Okay, so at least the illustrations by Francis Donald will be with us in a few days, and the Jafra illustrations and so forth, and then I'll be giving my usual type of lecture. But this is just a little warm-up to the importance of Gemini. You know, it is there at the beginning for humanity so that we can become an intelligent kingdom, a human kingdom. It has so much to do with the human kingdom. And it's there at the end, even at the 7th initiation, when the love wisdom of our solar logos is realized by such an initiate as the Christ or the Buddha. And it's there at the 4th initiation too, and at the 1st and at the 2nd. It's rather pervasive in the whole initiatory process. The most important of the signs on the mutable cross, you know, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, but the most prominent sign on the mutable cross is considered to be Gemini, and the one, in a way, most closely, excuse me, most closely related to humanity. All right, well, that's a little warm-up. I'm glad to see that there are, you know, 20-something of us here, 25 of us here, and that's a goodly group. And let's get into this and start building up our attunement with the Christ and with the Buddha. This is the Christ festival after all, you know, and he stands focusing the aspiration, conscious and unconscious, of all humanity towards Shambhala, where the Buddha will receive it. And there is a solidarity between the Christ and the Buddha at this particular festival, insomuch as the Lord Maitreya, the Christ, recites the Buddha's last sermon and sections of it, and the great invocation itself, all by himself. So we want to tune imaginatively into those possibilities and get the feeling of being very close to the Christ and his hierarchy, and as cooperators such as we are, we want to be empowered with the energy of love. The forces of reconstruction are active now, the great building energy of the second ray, very active, and we want to build brotherly relations, right human relations, liberty, equality, fraternity, liberty, Aquarius, equality, Libra, and fraternity, brotherhood is Gemini, and that's what our objective will be. Okay, so let us find ourselves linked to each other and in a comfortable position so we can meditate for a while here. And we will use the breath, regular breath, to quiet our vehicles so they present no obstacles to our communion with each other and the higher energies. And we begin by realizing ourselves to be the soul in incarnation. We are consciousness, a unit of consciousness, really a being consciousness, within those fields we call the personality fields, and slowly we begin to abstract from them. And we disidentify, pulling back from the world of the senses, the physical, etheric field, and pulling back from the field of emotion and feeling and sentiency, and pulling back as a soul in incarnation even from the mind, and we know we are something more than that which we see and that which we use. We are something more than the instrument. In fact, we find ourselves merging with the field of higher consciousness on the higher mental plane, which of course is right here, right now. And we're merging, all of us, within this field of light, unitive light, and unitive love, and the sense of redemptive power through sacrifice. We're merging with that because we're all together in the soul field. We use our imagination to see this. And we begin to feel the synthesis which exists all the time between us and between all human beings on the level of being. We are coming together. Jupiter is very powerful spiritually in Gemini, and it is the force that brings all things together, including us here and now. We sense each other's presence as souls. We are as if within the group soul, wherever our geography may place us. There is an omnipresence here. And Gemini is one of those signs so related to omnipresence, as it is also to omniscience. So we are present to each other in the group soul. And present to all the men and women of goodwill wherever they may be. In all the countries of the world. And present also really to all of humanity. All human souls, whether in the body or out of the body, here or there, we touch them in a way. There is but one soul in all of this. We try to feel this. the one soul. And the mantram that unites us is the second ray mantram. Naught is but me, or naught is but I. I, the greater I, am the only thing that is, pervading all human beings, all kingdoms, really everything. Naught is but this one self. And here we are, focused together on the plane of mind and the plane of soul, higher mind, lower mind. We gather around the group mental unit, which brings all the powers of the personality into itself magnetically. We breathe these powers up to the lower point of the Antakarana. We strengthen this point which we all share, the group mental unit. We strengthen it with the first ray, will to initiate, the second ray, will to unify, the third ray, will to evolve, the fourth ray, will to harmonize, the fifth ray, will to act, the sixth ray, will to cause, the seventh ray, will to express. This is the basis of our Antakarana, of our contact with the subtler worlds. And we intensify our focus there. This point illumined by the will of the soul, the presence of the soul. And we visualize the multicolored Antakarana, but for each of us, two colors, that of our soul ray and our personality ray. There are many different colors for the rays, but we can use, as you know, red for ray 1, indigo for ray 2, green for ray 3, yellow for ray 4, orange for ray 5, silvery rose for ray 6, and violet for ray 7. So we take a little time and visualize that twofold Antakarana for each of us. And if we don't know our soul ray or personality ray, we simply use the color indigo. And imaginatively, the Antakarana touches and includes the higher mental field, the monastic permanent atom. The Buddhic field, the Buddhic permanent atom. The Atmic field, the Atmic permanent atom, the place of spiritual will, and imaginatively even touching the pure spirit, the blue-white diamond, the place of pure being, the monadic level. Open doors by the Antakarana. And we visualize the many Antakaranas in the group and all these multiple colors, forming a great rising cone through the higher fields and to the monad, or proceeding inwardly to the center, whichever way we choose. So the highest aspects of ourselves and the personal aspects are aligned, and rapier-like, a beam of white light projected through all of this touching all of this, each of us will project on 3 ohms. And we will use the second ray word of power. I see the greatest light. So as you sound the ohm externally, you think in the projection, I see the greatest light. And so, imaginatively at least, our alignment is complete, our group alignment, and the sense of will and of love, wisdom, pure reason, planetary mind can all descend via that which we have created, bringing to us the broader impersonal perspective. We use our imaginations together, coming en rapport with these domains of energy which normally we may not access so effectively. But at these times of the full moon approach to and following, the access is greater. We can be channels for the conduit of these energies to our groups and to humanity. And here we are, as it were, in the world of the spiritual triad, which is the world where the masters themselves are focused. This is where they can really be found, not in the personal realms. This is where their consciousness is always focused, or monadically. We should get a sense of this. In non-locality, this is where their presence can be found. And the Buddha is also involved in this festival, so we will begin our salutations, our profession of cooperation with the Great Ones, with the salutation to the Great Lord of Light and Wisdom. Salutations to the Buddha, the Lord of Light, the Lord of Wisdom. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all masters, the teacher alike of angels and of men. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we most closely work. M, KH, and DK. Om. Salutations to the Master M, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Om. Salutations to the Master KH, the coming Christ of the age of Capricorn and the head of the second Ray Ashram, most preparing for the reappearance of the Lord Maitreya. Salutations to the Master DK, who has given us the blue books, who trains aspirants for the first 3 initiations. Salutations to your own Master as you conceive him to be or know him to be. Salutations to the entire Great White Lodge, the entire hierarchy of our planet. And imaginatively, reverently, with deepest humility, we raise our thought and imagination to the center where the will of God is known. Together we do this, of course, as a group, and we attune ourselves to the presence of the King of Shambhala, Sanat Kumara, the greatest of the world saviors, world teachers, the one who stands at his post until the last weary pilgrim has found his way home. We inwardly, silently sound a long Om, without voice, just silently, feeling ourselves and all humanity imbued with as much of his energy as may be possible. Now we enter into the indigo disk. There is a golden path leading to the center of indigo blue, and we are a point of light, of love and power. We feel ourselves to be this, not as individual disciples, even as individual souls, but merged in this point of light, from the disk looms before us, the golden path shortens, and we, moving with the golden path, shortening and shortening, enter into the presence of the indigo blue disk, and here we as if find the supervising consciousness of Master DK, pervading and substanding our meditative efforts. And in his presence we realize that there are energies available to us. We will not so much discuss them all tonight, but the energy of Mercury, giving us the method of bringing the soul and personality into relation. The energy of Venus, drawing the pairs of opposites together into fusion, loving fusion. The energy of the Earth, which is to be made a sacred planet, and demands the expression through form of all that we may contact of the higher inspiration. These energies of the fourth and the fifth and the third ray are accessible to us at these times. They condition humanity so powerfully, and our planet, of course. And together, imaginatively, the energy of the Solar Logos, the great love wisdom pervading every life, tiny or vast in the solar system. The great heart of love and wisdom, so strong in Gemini, the climactic position. The Solar Logos in relation to Gemini on the logoic plane. The great indigo ray filling us all with love and wisdom. And right relations with all forms of life. And finally then, on to the constellation itself, Gemini, the twins, so beautiful in the sky. Really a sevenfold constellation in its major parts. Pollux, a single supergiant star. Castor, really three sets of double stars, a six, the one and the six. The highest monad, liberated, and the six planes below it. The light of interplay between all the opposites. We are receiving the light of interplay. This light that helps us recognize our other self. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow, meaning our position is taken within the higher of the pairs of opposites with which we are working. So as if within the soul, as if within the triadally inspired soul, I recognize my other self. And in the waning of that self, I, the soul, grow and glow. No matter where we placed ourselves, it would be so, whether in the triad or the monad. Always there will be another self, which by comparison will wane and be drawn into the position we take, as if the whole personality of humanity can be drawn into the human soul and the opposites fused. As if microcosmically our entire personality can be uplifted and drawn into the true soul identification which we are now imaginatively feeling. And we as a group soul, we as so-called individual souls, we as the soul of humanity, we grow and we glow. And radiate. And all that we identified ourselves with earlier is seen merely as the instrument waning in its apparent separativeness, the dying light, and instead being drawn closer to that which we are, so that it too may be radiant with soul light, a fusion. An antakarana in which the lower disappears into the higher. And over these days we hold that sense of being the higher of the pairs of opposites, the soul, that can magnetize the lower, absorbing the personality ray into the soul ray, until that personality ray, for us, for the groups, for humanity, becomes a sub-ray of the soul ray. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I, the true soul, grow and glow. And in that sense of being centered truly in the soul, as if on the higher mental plane, fed by triadal and even monadic energies, we focus our meditative attention on the Christ and the Buddha, realizing their brotherhood as they represent the West and the East, and the spiritual union of these two hemispheres, the Lord of Light and Wisdom and the Lord of Love, two as one. Brothers in the light, Geminian brothers, even to pass before the Lord of the world, before the planetary logos, at a future time near the end of the Aquarian age, and to move on together to higher spheres, two as one. Who are really the great world saviors, and who inspire entire hemispheres and all of humanity. We're told that the Christ, on the day of the full moon, he preaches the last sermon of the Buddha before the assembled hierarchy, and before the hearts and minds of all beings. So we begin to prepare for that moment by focusing on a certain section in the last sermon of the Buddha. I suppose his best advice to all those who would follow. And this is one small aspect of that sermon, and we focus on this meditatively. Herein, O Ananda, let a brother, as he dwells in the body, so regard the body that he, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the body's cravings. A sixth degree initiate was speaking to us in this. He had achieved the sixth degree, was an embodied monad in that respect. Herein, O Ananda, let a brother, as he dwells in the body, so regard the body, that he, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the body's cravings. And affirm in yourself, we in ourselves, the fact that we can be, as we strive towards what the Buddha held as an example. Be strenuous. He was a first-rate personality. Be strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful in the overcoming of the grief which arises from the body's cravings, and we resolve to be so, to do so. Because for so many, even the dense physical body is a great obstacle, even for disciples. The Buddha, ruled by Taurus, had a special connection with this vehicle and knew how to deal with it. In the greatest light of the cosmic mental plane which touched him. And we will build these thoughts as we proceed over these days. So with profound gratitude to the Buddha for all he has done to illumine humanity, astrally conditioned humanity, bringing illumination to them, to us. We now refocus our attention on the Lord Maitreya, the Christ, who will stand as the representative at this festival of goodwill, this Christ festival, before the hierarchy and before Shambhala. Focusing our aspiration towards the place of response, so that the great love of Shambhala may flow. And with utmost heartful attentiveness, the utmost of which we are capable, we listen inwardly and exercise in imagination. We listen inwardly. We hear the Christ sounding the great invocation in his voice, no one else. And we allow a period of the silent absorption of his imagined sounding. And hear the words. We attend to the imaginative sounding the great invocation by the Christ. Daily we are told he stands beneath his pine tree in his garden and he blesses the world and he sounds the great invocation on a daily basis in whatever language that may be. For our invocation has been translated into English, but we know that in the original it would be more the ideographic language, Senzar, or something deeply living. Now through the imagination again, this time only the first stanza of the great invocation, and it will be the great Lord Maitreya and the resounding sounding of the entire spiritual hierarchy of our planet. The words are before you. We imagine this, the Christ with his hierarchy, sounding on this first day of preparation, the first stanza. Let the significance of these words sounded by the great heart center of our planet sink into our consciousness. And through this day, we carry the sense of the growing light, the first stanza, the illumined humanity. Imagine the illumination of humanity in the planet. We see before us, before the inner eye, an enlightened human race. Humanity is a great station of light. The planet is a great station of light. The light of hierarchy, the light of the Logos, the light of Sirius. And so we intensify that light, we add our modicum of light to the growing light. But on each of the 3 days before the day of the Gemini full moon, the Christ and his hierarchy are said to emphasize a distinct keynote. And so, in imagined concert with the Christ and with his spiritual hierarchy, we will now together in our group unity, as if one group soul, we will contemplate the first keynote described by Master DK as follows. We will contemplate together the keynote of love in its hierarchical sense, free from sentiment, emotion, and personal emphasis, love that sacrifices and understands that acts with strength and decision, and that works on behalf of the whole, and not in the interests of any group or individual. The great keynote of love. And in our contact with the Christ, even if imaginative, and with the elder brothers, we should feel something of this, experience something of this, free from sentiment, emotion, and personal emphasis. A love that sacrifices and understands, that acts with strength and decision, that works on behalf of the whole and not in the interests of any group or individual. The high point of love is reached in Gemini. The seventh degree initiate experiences this high point of love. It happened most recently in 1943, we're told. And more is coming later. Great planetary love, the love of the soul of our planet, the secondary soul of our planet. And so we envision this type of love growing in ourselves and in all human beings, and we imagine how we may apply this type of hierarchical love in our individual groups, individual lives, our groups, our nation, humanity. We see the love growing. The love of all opposites for each other that fuses the entire apparently dualistic universe into a unity, into one thing, the one. That type of love. Just as the hierarchy pronounces the first stanza of light for this first of 3 days, so there is the keynote of love, and we will emphasize it, seeking to have it pervade all we think and all we do, and all we feel. And so we affirm our solidarity with the Buddha, the Christ, and the assembled hierarchy. We affirm as a group here our solidarity. We seek to identify with them and to merge our purpose with their purpose. Their mighty purpose, which is to carry out the plan of the purpose of the Lord of the world, planetary logos, ultimately the solar logos, we affirm our solidarity with this intent. And we imaginatively merge with them and bless the world in silence. We pause for a moment of appreciation of the illumined, loving energies of the constellation Gemini, and feel ourselves imbued with these energies. And growing in strength as the full moon slowly approaches. We live in these energies for these next days, and even afterwards, we live in these energies, a 7-day period. In the dual energies of love and wisdom, and especially emphasizing the keynote of love now, hierarchical love. We try to understand, we try to embody. As a group, we try to express. And so, as if in union with the Lord Maitreya, the hierarchy, and all disciples in the world, and keeping in mind the great Lord Buddha, wherever we are, we can sound with our voice the great invocation, first stanza, sensing the redemptive union of light and love. And, of course, keep yourself on self-mute as we do this. I will sound it, and you can, in your homes and where you are, sound it along with me. From the point of light, within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Friends, do all you can to sustain the growing energies. This video will be sent to you as soon as we can arrange, and you will have the words, if you need to refer to them, of a section of the Buddha's last sermon, and the keynote. You can also look that up in Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 2. The actual full moon will be at 4:24 and 55 seconds a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. This is the Finland chart. But really near 4:30 in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time. So let's sustain our point of tension. You can feel the energies, they're very strong. and the great power of love can be released over all. And the opposites can come together, and fire by friction can display as solar fire. And we can be involved in the reconstruction of the world with the forces of reconstruction released at this time. So thank you very much for being with us. Tomorrow night, same time, we will, well, at least my night, we will continue. The keynote will be resurrection. We will work on the second stanza of the Great Invocation. So stay in the alignment. The great pillars of Hercules are there, Gemini, giving us a stable connection between heaven and earth, and we will reconcile those opposites. So, good night, good day, good morning, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Thank you for attending.